Hey everyone, what's up? It's your host, autistic white Charles Barkley, Drew from the Drewsperience. Make sure to like, share, subscribe button to the channel. We're growing fast. All long form conversations that are Kyokushin karate based are on one Kyokushin, but MMA shows, certain guests are on my channel. So make sure to like, share, subscribe. I have a goal to reach 1,000 subscribers by the end of the year. My guest today is one of the most important. He's doing the Lord's work. He has got an unofficial doctorate in MMA history. He's a professor. He's got the best, I think, one of the best shows on YouTube, the Lytes Out Podcast. I'm very proud to welcome MMA detective Mike Davis. Welcome to the show, Mike.
Man, quite quite an intro. What's up, Drew? So, Drew, I have noticed that, obviously you explained to me that you're on a spectrum, and I love that you embrace it. And you should, you should. I think it's cool.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, well, dude, it's a big honor. I watched some of your interviews, like the James Wormy one. Jamie Wormy, former UFC executive. I watched the Bob Meyerowitz interview. I've watched a bit of the Lovato one. I've watched some of the John Peretti. So I really love what your channel does. You even covered some of the dark characters in MMA that have had downfalls, like Travis Fulton, who infamously ended himself. So you're doing it's an insult how people don't subscribe to your channel, because you deserve to be at least 50,000 subscribers for what you do.
All right. So, in regards to our numbers, we're I think we're definitely under 5,000 on YouTube, and then we're probably about 1,500 on Instagram. But the people that work on the channel, they tell me, they're like, your interactions and the likes and shares and stuff like that, they're tantamount to a channel 10x of what your subscribers are. We don't understand why your subscribers are so low. And I think where it comes down to is I don't pay for advertising. The true test, if you want to see how big somebody's podcast is, go to Apple, look how many reviews that they have, and that'll tell you everything about it. You can fake Instagram numbers and you can fake YouTube numbers, but that review box on Apple, it doesn't lie.
No.
It doesn't lie. They really kind of monitor that. And if you look at my numbers there as compared to some of the bigger channels, I'm neck and neck. So it's is somebody faking it and is somebody not faking it? I don't know. All I know is I'm not here for that. I'm here to kind of document history, and we do a pretty good job at it.
No, you're amazing, and that's what I kind of take. I don't want to say I copy your show, but that's kind of what I try to take as well. Where it's some people, I have some people that say you got to monetize. You can make. It's I just do this because I love this.
Yeah.
Because it's if you love it, knowing you're not going to make money and right away, everything else will fall into place eventually. You just have to trust the process and just keep pushing.
Drew, 100% correct. 100% correct. And it's the context I've made from it, the interactions I get from it, they're phenomenal. I was just at American Top Team with Mike Brown about 2-3 weeks ago. Yeah, I spent, almost 2 hours hanging out with Mike Brown at the ATT, just chopping up old school MMA and, things like that. They mean the world to me, more than a couple dollars a month through monetization.
I agree. I like hearing the stories, and that's what I love too. It's especially when I leave an interview, or when I leave, I don't even want to say it's an interview. It's more of a conversation, because I try to go in there. I think what a lot of people do, Mike, that are in our niche especially, is they try to get a soundbite to put it on their social to give themselves clout and to give themselves presence. But they destroy that relationship. And in this game, I prefer valuing the relationship over clout and instant fame.
Okay, so you have character and merit,
yeah.
And I am the same way. So I had Igor Zinoviev on, and Igor fought Frank Shamrock for the UFC title. He's more known for being the bodyguard of Jeffrey Epstein. So I've been trying to track Igor down for a long time. Through John Peretti, we finally get him. And I just told him this. I just said, listen, man, I'm not trying to be on anybody's radar that I don't want to be on. Because he initially said, yeah, I don't do interviews because everything's taken out of context. And I said, I agree with you. I only want to talk about MMA, and that other stuff I'm not sure I want those people knowing who I am, and I definitely want to know who they are. So, like an hour into our interview, he let loose with some Epstein stuff, and I just said, "Well, this is not why we're here." And I said, "I'll tell you what. I'll make sure people can't clip it. I'll make sure I don't clip it. If people find it, it's in the interview, and if they don't find it, well, oh well, who cares?" And because of that, I was over at Rogue Wave in Southern Florida, and I was actually able to hang out with them. So it was cool.
That's epic. So when you're at Top Team, because you said Mike Brown, they have a lot of assassins over there. They got like Johnny Evelyn, Dalton Rasta, Joanna Jacek. They have Kayla Harrison. Did you see any Jorge Masvidal, Dustin Poirier, to name a few? Did you see any of those guys there?
You know what? I saw the guys that were. I didn't see the main event guys. I saw the undercard guys there, and I'll tell you what they do have that's kind of surprising. They've got like a really large Muslim contingency.
Okay.
It's like, Habib and all those guys went to America, AKA. There's a very large group over there as well. And, when I talked to Mike about them, he's like, they don't drink. They don't use drugs. They're the most focused people that we've got in the gym. We've got zero problems, like outside of the gym with them. He's like, we love having them here. Like, it's phenomenal.
That's amazing. No, that's something to behold. But how did you get started?
Hey, mi amor, ¿pueden ayudarme?
That's him talking to his daughter, guys. Don't worry, he's a devoted father too. I forgot to put in the intro. So.
Oh my! Did you? Oh, were you guys hearing her? Sorry,
No, it's okay.
I'm muting my speaker. My wife's
Don't worry.
taking her
No.
right now.
That's the thing. That's the fun thing about like that's the fun thing.
There we go.
There we go. It happens.
There now. She's out of the room. There we go. We're good.
That happens. That's joys of being a father. But how did you get started in MMA? Like, what got you to do this? Like, did you have other sports you were trying to like?
Well, I grew up boxing. Yeah, no, I grew up boxing. Like my first boxing match was like at the age of 8. I fought in like the citywide tournament with my brother, and Mount Carmel's got like a real famous boxing tournament. I won it 3 years in a row, and it's like it's uneventful is my amateur boxing career. I had about 60 fights. So, I mean, I know what it's like getting in there. And then I saw MMA, I think UFC 2, and I became addicted at UFC 2. Like, I was just all in at UFC 2. And November 23rd, 1993, I got sober. Like, I haven't had a sip of alcohol since I was 18 years old.
Congrats, man. That's
yeah. It runs in my family. I definitely wasn't taking to it well. I was changing as a person. So I took 2 years away from everybody, including the gym, got sober. And when I kind of started making steps back into kind of normalcy, I started going to live MMA events. Like, I knew I couldn't drink. I knew I couldn't hang out. I'm the South Side of Chicago guy. I knew I couldn't hang out on the South Side of Chicago. And I started going to live events. So I since like 97, I want to say, I've been to like 25 live events a year. And in the totality of my life, I've been to like maybe like 6 UFCs.
Oh, wow.
So I'm always on the independent grind. Like the road to the UFC is the most undocumented thing that you can find in sports. But that's like my specialty. It's like, that's my bread and butter. Do I make the occasional mistake? Yeah, of course. Do I, ignore it and pretend like it didn't happen? No. Like, if you guys correct me in the comments section of my YouTube page, you're getting a free T-shirt. I mean, that's just how it works. It's like we're trying to, correct history. And, if I'm right, good. And, the few times I am wrong, hey, dude, come get it, dude. I'll send you a T-shirt.
Exactly. No, that's a very humble way of looking at it. I mean, for me, I do Kyokushin karate since got to Japan last year. And I mean, I didn't do amateur boxing, but I did do amateur kumite, because in karate there's semi-contact and then there's elite, which is full contact, where you're not wearing headgear. You just have like maybe your arms wrapped and that. So there's 2 levels, and I did semi-contact. I did okay. I mean, I wasn't the best ever. I just wanted to do it, but then I realized, I didn't want to be in the shadow of one of my friends who is a fighter, actually, like who is an elite in that style. And I said, okay, let him be a champion in that style. I'll be a champion in my style. And I saw there was like an area that wasn't being covered because BJJ does it. They have like journalists, they have like podcasters. Our style of karate doesn't really have it. So I said, yeah, I'm going to take advantage of this. Let's try something.
And, you know, for my audience, Kyushin karate, it's the Dutch style. Well, I don't know if it's a Dutch style, but it's what the Dutch have made famous.
Yes.
And the Dutch, like, they're striking. People always talk about it being so elite, especially on the upper levels.
Yeah.
It's those guys all have Kyushin karate backgrounds. All of them kind of started in that style. Am I right or wrong?
Well, it's Japanese. It's from Oyama, and Oyama started it. And the Dutch basically had Dutch kickboxing, but then they just took Kyokushin and they kind of just put it in Dutch kickboxing along the way. So it kind of just evolved. I'm not sure about too much of the history with how Kyokushin came into kickboxing, but it was right at that sweet point in the 80s where basically Dolph Lundgren came in. Gerard Gordeau was fighting, and you had him on your show. Oh, that was such a great interview. Sammy Schultz, too, even.
Yeah.
Your guys, he got Gerard Gordeau on interview. Go watch it. Like, please, if you guys want to appreciate MMA history, watch that interview because Gerard Gordeau is like catching a legendary Pokemon. You cannot get him.
3 years. So like the key, I mean, just so like for your audience, so they kind of know like our process. I'm former law enforcement. I did 15 years with the Cook County Sheriff's Department. I was on TV a few of those years. I uploaded those episodes to my YouTube channel. So in essence, like, I don't know how it is in Canada, but in the United States, gang databases are not legal anymore. Like my former boss had something that I helped build, had it completely destroyed because of some sort of social equity. I don't know. I don't understand it. So in essence, what happens is I meet one guy, tell me about your friends. I put all that information down. And then when I meet that friend, I say, hey, dude, I've been trying to talk to you for a while. You get him with flattery. Oh, yeah? Yeah, you drive this car. Your dog's name is that. You see these little things, you kind of walk away, and then you come back a little bit more. You walk away, you come back. And by the end of it, they're so flattered, they tell you everything. Mm-hmm. And that's what we have done is in those techniques, dude, I am telling you, it puts you at an advantage in terms of an interviewer that it's shocking the distance you can get on an interview when you have a database that's now illegal here, at least in Chicago, I think LA as well. Mm-hmm. So in essence, what we do is I talk to somebody. Mm-hmm. I have a guy in California named Andrew Mendoza, who's super OCD. And Andrew gets all of the names that were mentioned. We put timestamps according to them. So like when I'm going to talk to you or somebody else, I put their name in our database and I get like factual things or things that might be controversial from the person that said it. So like when they're asking me, like we hear it a lot, how did you know that? How did you know it? Well, it was just a little tiny sentence in a 2-hour long interview. And because of that, like our interviews become very personal. So with Gerard Gordeau, he gave me his phone number afterward. He is the hardest interview ever to get. Yes.
Yeah, I met him in Japan. I'll say the story. Like I will repeat the story a million times. I'll take it to my grave. We were at the tournament. So for our organization, there's many Kyokushin organizations. It's not like BJJ where they're all united because after Oyama died, long story short, there's no successor name to keep everything. So everyone just wanted to do their own thing. So we're at my organization's tournament, and I see a red sweater, Kamakura Dojo, and I was thinking to myself, no effing way. I'm like, we have one legend who's a Chechen legend in our style called Lechi Kurbanov. He fought in K1 too. Mm-hmm. And then I see Kamakura Dojo, and I'm like, this is too perfect. Like, this is like, so what happens is I go up to one of the guys, and I go, excuse me, I'm like, are you... And they go, are you Nico Gordeau? That's his brother, Nico Gordeau student. He goes, yeah, we're Cancho Gerard Gordeau student. I go, no way. He goes, yeah. How do you know about Cancho? I go, oh, well, he's famous for UFC 1. And I'm like, is that him over there? They go, yeah. I go, can you introduce me, please? And they introduce me. They're like, Cancho, this guy's from Canada. I'm like, hi, Cancho. I go, I just want to say you're a legend. I used a flattery trick. I said, you're so important. It's such an honor to meet you. And I go like, you're one of the reasons when I watched that video, like in 2015, of you kicking Taylor Tully's teeth, and I got into martial arts and chose Kyokushin. He's like, that's very nice. He goes, where are you from? I go, Canada. And he took a photo with me, and I sent you that photo because I put in the comments. I got a picture of him smiling. And no, it was amazing. Yeah. But he says it like it is. You cannot filter that man. And that's the one thing when people say, you got to kind of filter him. I go, no, he can come on. He can
No. Yeah. No.
Be.
Yeah, don't censor that. No. And like the one thing, like they're going to make a movie about UFC 1.
They have to.
And so like the context is super important to you because these guys are starting to pass.
Yeah.
And Gerard Gordeau at the rules meeting was smoking cigarettes. Yeah. Gerard Gordeau, in between his fights, was smoking cigarettes. Like he's literally, got one in his mouth, hitting the pads. Okay, all right, let's go out there. Let's do it. Like, dude, they don't make men like that anymore. You know what I mean?
No, and he's kind of like the bad boy. I wouldn't say, and I'm not saying this in an insulting way, he's kind of considered like the bad boy of Kyokushin for how he left in '87, because there was a lot of controversy with the World Tournament and how like there was like some screwery in the tournament. He explained to me, so I'm going to get him to explain that. But he's kind of...
Are you going to get him? Are you going to get him?
There's a chance. The goal is to either go to Holland to his school personally, because I was invited. They said, yeah, come down, because I know his assistant, Chem. So Chem was like, come to our school and, you could train. And I go, can I get an interview with him in person? He goes, yeah. I would rather do an interview with him in person than remote. God. That's my ultimate goal.
All right. So for a while, I don't know his situation now, but for a while, he was in hiding in the mountains with no internet.
Yeah.
I mean, just so people kind of can understand, like he's 100% the real deal.
Yeah.
He is 100% the real deal. It took me like 3 years to get that. And like I had to pay 2 different people, and it was like nominal amounts. It wasn't like, it was like $25, $50. It was like, and like when I was discussing this with my broadcast partner, Joey Venti, I'm just like, dude, we're doing a UFC 1, month. It's like not last October, the October prior. And I'm like, man, dude, all right, let's just do it. Let's just pay. We've never paid for a guest, but in this instance, we'd paid people to connect us. And I know based on the first, I'd say 15 minutes, he really enjoyed himself. Like he sat in.
Yeah. Yeah, no, like but it takes time for him because he's very like, he wants to make sure you're legit. Cause like, I mean, he explained to me, he goes, listen, man, he goes, a lot of people try to like get close to me and like they have other agendas. And he goes, I'm not like that. He goes, it's either like, I'm like, well, I hope you like me. He's like, you're a good SOB. I like you. And like typical Gerard fashion.
Yeah.
And
no, that was a hard one. And like where I concentrated on was, I mean, UFC 1's fantastic.
Yes.
But like what he did in Japan, like beating up like some Yakuza guys and stuff like that. And, the one question that I didn't get answered was like, he went to this pro wrestling match, cornered a guy where they beat up everybody, including the owner. And when he came back, it was there repercussion for this? And he's just like, yes. And where I screwed up, I didn't ask to see his fingers. I should have asked to see his fingers because he might be missing like part of his pinky.
Yeah, no.
I think so. I think he might be missing part of his pinky.
Super, super down to earth guy, and he's very tall, by the way. Like he's like a tower next to me.
It's that Dutch. It's that Dutch. They love talking about height. Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, but a great guy though. They have a great team, and like they're very welcoming. They love Canada. I mean, the Dutch love Canada because of the World War II relationship that Canada liberated Holland. So, I was invited. So he's one that I aim to interview. You got him, which is amazing. And I don't think he'll ever go on Rogan's show because I don't think you could keep him on for 3 hours.
No.
You're lucky to get it. You're lucky you got an hour because some have said
I think we got 90 minutes. We got 90 minutes out of him. Yeah, it was good. It was really good. Yeah.
And then you've also had Bob Meyerowitz on, which was like, what? Wow, I thought that guy didn't want to do any interviews.
He doesn't. So Meyerowitz contacted us, actually, after Scott Ferozzo. After we got Scott Ferozzo, he said he saw Ferozzo. He's like, I know you know what you're talking about. And he's like, come on. So I'm like, all right, cool, dude. And, to his credit, he didn't ask for questions ahead of time. He didn't ask for any of that. So Meyerowitz is the original UFC owner. Him, Art Davie, and Horian. And I'm his only interview in the last 20 years, and he's not doing another one. So we get stuff like that. We get stuff like that a lot, actually.
Wow.
Historically important. He still gets a piece of the UFC.
Okay.
So he had a perpetuity deal where he always got a piece. And in it, he said, like 2006 is when it became significant. But prior to it, it was just like nominal payments.
Well, like they have to pay the debt and all that. Like that's what James. They have to pay. They're in a hole. Like they're in a massive hole when they took it over. Like there's the famous Dana quote where he's like, "I was arguing with Meyerowitz, and Meyerowitz said there is no money in this. We're all losing it. You're just gonna take it from me, basically."
Yeah. We're gonna get Dana eventually. I've actually already started preparing my questions for him, and I've got some really solid early UFC questions that were pivotal moments of the company, and we're gonna get that. It's just when I know we're gonna get that one.
No, it's gonna come. It's going to come. So, you also said before earlier that you were working on the road to the UFC, and that's something that a lot of people don't like to do because we're seeing, Mike, with a lot of content creators when they want to cover MMA, they're trying to get to the big names right away. And I think the best way to get comfortable being on camera and talking to fighters is the road to the UFC. Is that something you would recommend to all up and comers?
Everybody like a 50 Fight Club member, there's not a lot of them in the United States, but if you've never seen one fight live, I kind of question like who you are and what you're like, how you are involved with the mixed martial arts. Like it's the 50 Fight Club member and the independent grind. It's the roots of the tree. Like you have to support that. So a lot of people, I'm not going to mention any names, but there's people that they fake the funk and they get a really good position, but nobody knows where they came from. So it's like, if I don't know you from the independent grind, and then all of a sudden you show up like on the UFC, like that doesn't make sense. Like, no, you didn't earn your spot. It's like you're the rich kid that is bragging about his wealth. It's like, no, you didn't earn that spot. So the independent grind to me is incredibly important, and it's the most difficult to track. And like if I were just to do like, hey, let's just talk about your UFC fights. One, I could get really good content from it, really good clips, but the stories aren't anywhere going to be as good as the independent grind.
No, it's very true. Like for me, I think it helps because I already have a martial arts background, so that helped. But I already had interest because a lot of people say, well, how did you get interested in the mixed martial arts right away? So what happened with me was I used to be a hockey nut. So like I used to be like, I have like a little deck here of like little hawks, some specific players I like. It's an autistic thing where you stack things up. So it's like you see here, like I have like a few like of the 90s, like Vladimir Konstantinov, Sergei Zubov, Brian Leach. So I was a big hockey nut. I could ring off drafts. I could ring off points. When they got drafted, that kind of autistic level was like off the charts. But one day I was watching a San Jose Sharks game, and when I was meeting my dad's family. So after like my dad passed in 2014, I went to meet his family for the first time in California. And the same night, John Jones fought DC for the first time. And I just watched it. I was like, oh my God. Like I knew what UFC was. I knew some of the names. I just didn't have time. Then, when I got back, I watched Gegard Mousasi starch Dan Henderson. Then the visual history book came out of the UFC, and I looked at it, and it said Gegard Mousasi, born Tehran, Iran, and Robbie Lawler fought Rory McDonald too the second time. So that was kind of what culminated with Connor's run, basically, but it was more the Lawler 2 fight. And watching Mousasi and Jones dominate, that got me into the sport and take up martial arts. It's because of Gegard Mousasi and John Jones I got into MMA, and Lawler.
Yeah. I mean, you just grabbed a whole bunch of fights that were phenomenal. Like, if you watch any of those fights, dude, that Henderson fight hurt my feelings. I'm a huge Hendo fan. But
you had him on your show, too. Congrats to that, man.
Yeah, we had Hendo. And it's like, if you don't like what you just mentioned, you've got no soul. Like, I mean, it's like, it's like the true test of a man is how they handle a loss or how you see them face adversity. Like Rory McDonald, when he lost to Robbie Lawler, dude, I walked away with more respect for the loser in that fight than I did the winner. And both were like huge amounts. But Rory McDonald, oh my God. Yeah, it was awesome.
Yeah, no, and then I took up Taekwondo first because of kind of Anthony Pettis because I like kickboxers. I'm a striker through and through. I mean, I've watched the martial arts movies. I've watched anime like Dragon Ball. So that's what got me into like striking. So I did Taekwondo first. I'm a fat fuck, pardon my French there, so I don't have flexibility. So that's why I got into karate because it's easier on my mid to low leg kicks. But that's what got me into it. And I've been in martial arts ever since 2015, 2016.
That's cool. That's cool. Yeah, yeah, and like I hope you're also on the administrative side at some point. That's also really important. Like there's really only two fans of mixed martial arts: those that consume and those that put things together. And like I'm one of the people that help with the moving parts. Like I said, since like '97, I've just been heavily involved in the mixed martial arts scene, and because of that, it's allowed me to just kind of navigate to lots of different social circles.
Yeah, no, for me, I was kind of in the mixed martial arts with karate, but I felt like the mixed martial arts scene is now getting involved. Like, there's a lot of these people that just come out of nowhere, and as you said, we don't know where they came from. Really, they don't like they just come out of nowhere. They get big. I don't like that.
No one respects them, dude. No one respects
Yeah.
them. Just so you know, like the journalists that get all like the views and you know they got their little gimmick and they're dressed a certain way. Dude, we just roll our eyes at them. I'm not gonna lie. You know, I'm not gonna lie. It's just
I just want to focus on karate at this point because
Yeah.
it's like there's no one there. Yes, it's like small. It's like a big fish in a small pond in a sense, but no one's doing it. So I'm like doing what I'm doing. When you say moving parts, I do interviews. I do post-fight interviews, which no one does after
that's
the fight.
badass, dude. That's badass.
I've even offered to do MC work in Japan, like for the next tournament. That's what I'm trying to do.
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
I just want. I don't. People are like. Oh, I hope you're getting paid for it. I go. I don't care. I go. I
No,
just love
it's
it.
not about
I
that.
love
It's
it.
not about that.
I love it. And it's
No.
just
I mean, how much money is in Kyoshin karate? Really?
zero. It's like
Okay.
zero. Yeah.
So it's a passion project.
Yeah.
This is your hobby.
Exactly. So that's what I love doing, and it's just fun helping. Like it's like giving this platform to those of the next generation. Because the problem with Kyokushin athletes, they're too humble. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. They're just like very like us. Like they try to. I'm like, guys, be a showman, be a showwoman.
Yeah.
Like, please, we need this. Like,
Yeah.
I know there's the tradition, but slowly we're bending the tradition. So that's why I'm trying to be that mix of a Rogan, Mike Goldberg, like with what I do.
That's good. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Like I respect Kyoshin karate. Absolutely. And mixed martial arts, combat sports, I'm in. Like I almost last summer went to a sumo contest here in
Oh,
Chicago.
wow.
It was just too expensive. It was like $250. And I'm like, man, you bring that down to like 50, 70, I'm in, but it's $250. I'm like, ugh.
What are your thoughts on like, okay, so basically where the era you cover is so important because it's called the Wild West days or the Dark Ages, but I think
No
we're
holds barred
Wild
days. Yeah.
Yeah, so a lot of people don't know this, but back in the day, before when UFC was bought by Zuffa, they were doing cross promotions. What was like? Did you ever learn discover that? Like how like some guys would go to Pride, then come back to UFC, and then they did the famous 2003 crossover.
Well, I think like we've got a lot of projects. It's just the man hours like that we have available to do them. Like the lineal champions for each weight class, like if you kind of look at the path that they took, oftentimes they're actually, although people are wearing a UFC belt, the actual UFC champion like Francis Ngannou, there's other kind of like paths that take that belt away from the UFC. And it was just mostly because it was just lack of funds. Like if you guys want to experience like what it was like the early days of like mixed martial arts, I would highly suggest coming to some of the BKFC events, the Bare Knuckle Fighting Championship events, because it's in that early stage. Is there a lot of money there? No, there's not. But like you get to see just like the true grit and characters of people. BKFC, right? Have you caught it yet?
I mean, you work with David Feldman, by the way.
I
Right?
do. Yeah, I do
Okay.
work with BKFC.
I don't watch BKFC, but I see it on my social media. But because you work with them, like now I'm starting to pay more attention. And David Feldman is doing great things now. Like I see what he's doing.
Dude, it's nuts. The thing is, it's the average less than one concussion an event, but they hit about 180 stitches. So people give up scars for concussions. I think any combat sports athlete will tell you it's a fair trade-off. It's the most exciting freaking sport there is. Like the ADHD community can scratch their itch with BKFC because of just how action-packed it is. I suggest come to an early one because once it hits mainstream, people are going to miss these days. These are the days that people are going to be talking about.
Well, I hope you guys come to Canada soon. I mean, I don't know what's going on.
We're usually in, like, what, Edmonton, I think we're in?
Okay. I'm in Quebec, so I hope.
Yeah, that's a different country. Yeah. So far away.
No, it's a province within it's a country within a country.
Yeah.
Basically.
I think, I don't want to speak out of context, but I did meet some people from Quebec, some MMA people from Quebec, and I know there's talks about bringing it there, and I think it's going to be sooner rather than later.
Okay, keeping my fingers crossed.
I got your tickets.
Thank you.
I got your tickets. Yeah.
Thanks, man. No, it's amazing. I think because you work with BKFC, so you know everybody. One of the ring card girls who I know, Sophia, was doing events there. I don't know for which ones, but her name is Sophia Halidas. She did Bellator ring card girls. She's been on my show. She was at BKFC, and it's like, so I just wanted to give her a shout out because I mean, maybe you know her or seen her. She's got.
I'm married.
Okay.
I don't know the ring card girls. At all.
I get it. Yeah.
And it's out of respect. It's out of respect to them, respect to my wife.
No, it's amazing. But you've interviewed like even BKFC athletes like Chris Camozzi, and there's even like ex-UFC veterans that have been on there. So
yeah, no, I highly suggest you check it out. Like if you guys are into history or even like personal stories, we got a lot of it, and we don't shy away from controversy. In fact, I think this November we're kind of Rogan does Sober October, which I think is super cool, and we were thinking about doing Sober October with sober athletes. And then, like, we're kind of talking about doing Notorious November.
I love that.
Where people, like, that have run afoul of the law. And it's just, if you're too sensitive, this might be the month that you take off. But we're going to talk to these people like Hermes Franca, Josh Grisby, people like that, that have checkered pasts. What's his name from Minnesota? The Grim, Brent Rogers.
Yeah.
So Brett Rogers, he lives in a tent in Minnesota. I know exactly where he lives right now. So I'm actually thinking about just an entire November dedicated to criminals or people that have had some dark parts of their history. Like in the past, we've done Gerald Strebent. He's come on, involved with the, a murder, a hit. You know what I mean? He's had several things in his past. So, like, we don't shy away from it now, but we're thinking about dedicating an entire month to it.
Another thing, too, that they're trying to do that Feldman put out was they're trying to do Mike Perry versus Robbie Lawler. Sign me up for that. If they can get Robbie Lawler to do it. David Feldman, I don't know if you're going to watch this interview. Please make that fight happen. I will pay the pay-per-view. Please. That's my wish list for 2025. I have a few things for 2025. Please.
It's at the top of it. Yeah, it's at the top of it. Yeah. The thing with Feldman is his biggest problem, and it's a huge one, is that people got to catch up to him. Like he's so much, like in regards to bare knuckle and its direction and its finish line, he's so much further than everybody else that like people got to catch up to him. And like in instance where like I realized that. Like one day I sat there and I talked to him and I said, you can have boxers cannot come to MMA. It takes too much time for them to cross train and understand the sport, especially the MMA guy that they're going to be fighting is at such a high level that you're going to need more than 2 years just to catch up to them. MMA guys, they don't have a real good track record in glove boxing when they cross over. It's two completely different sports. But in bare knuckle, the MMA guys actually have a slight advantage in terms of numbers, but the skill set leans towards the boxing guys. So it's skill versus grit. And that's what we've experienced. And Feldman just is like, well, yeah, dude, we can do an NBA guy versus a WWE guy. We can do a soccer player versus an NFL guy. And we could put it together within 3 months and they'd be on the level playing field. And it was just like something that he had already known for a long time was just like, oh my gosh, you're right. It's like you could bring pride back essentially with some of the, the big kind of gimmick fights, which I enjoyed. I enjoyed.
Listen, I like it too. Listen, Pride. I think the problem with Pride was they're at the end of their life cycle when they tried to start competing with the UFC in Vegas. That was their and the allegations with the Yakuza, as we know, that was their be all. That was the nail in the coffin, trying to come to Vegas and compete with the UFC. They should never have done that.
I agree.
That was a big business blunder. Whereas now BKFC is like, we can revive this and whatnot. But speaking of blunders, I want to ask you about the PFL Bellator merger, because now we're starting to see a lot of the skeletons with this merger. What's your thoughts on it? What's going on with them and all the shenanigans?
Well, okay, so I'm on the administrative side of the sport, and I've been on the administrative side, since maybe 2003, 2004 is when I started traveling internationally and working as a consultant to other companies. The Bellator PFL situation, it didn't make sense for contracts. Contractually, if that one organization goes under, then you can renegotiate all those contracts. Mm-hmm. And it's not like there's going to be a land grab. The UFC at the time had 700 people under contract. So they were already pretty top heavy as it was. So in terms of market price, you could have got the best market price available had you allowed Bellator to fall. Mm-hmm. But absorbing them, you're taking them at their contractual price, and you're taking on some really high-end people getting as much money as that they deserve. I mean, so that's where I'm at with that. However, what were the things that you really needed? Maybe there was an investor that was tied in with it that would come over. Maybe there were sponsors, TV deals that would come over. Mm-hmm. I know there was a math equation there that I wasn't privy to, but I think the fallout in the finish line that they're at right now, I don't think it's surprised anybody with any common sense. Common sense will tell you that, it's are you guys just going to jump on the same ship and sink together? Yeah, I don't know. It's strange. I know everything's kind of coming to light. PFL, where do you watch it at? Here in Canada, I can't find it here in the United States. I don't know where it's at. It was on ESPN Plus, not anymore. I don't know. I don't know where it's at. I watch it on clips on Instagram.
Yeah, same. Not only that too, they lowered their cash prizes. Now it's $500,000. It's not $1 million anymore.
Yeah. Well, if you even look at their Instagram, the things that they're pushing, it's really lazy, slow guy walking out there after bell rings and then gets knocked out, or a guy jumping like a frog repeatedly trying to get a takedown. Mm-hmm. That's the part of your product you want me to watch. This is what's going to make me a PFL fan. I don't know, man. I think there's probably a lot of chefs, and the people that are allowed to cook the ingredients are people that might not deserve to be in the kitchen. That's where I'm at with it.
Yeah, I agree. You need to have a bit of that Dana White, and then you have not the grunts or the lackeys, but the foot soldiers basically that are willing to go out and do the work and whatnot. But they have to have that experience understanding the fight game, because it seems like PFL, it's an investor group. You have the guy Don Davis who comes on. He seems like a good guy, but look, Mike, I don't think he's got that Dana White instinct. You need to have that Big Mac sauce in order to succeed at what you do.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's you're given a ton of money, and I tell you that the worst thing you can do is surround yourself with everybody telling you you're doing great, mm-hmm. which I think is happening over there. What you need to do is have people over there all right, dude, that was great. That's in the past. What are we doing tomorrow? What's tomorrow? And I can tell you BKFC does have that. We for sure, if it's great, we're cool that day. And then we're back kind of grinding and thinking, 24 hours, all right, what's next? So there's a certain mentality you kind of have to have on the administrative side. And, being a yes man and laughing at everybody's jokes, it's not going to help anybody.
You got to be honest. You got to say, this isn't working. It's the same thing, for me with karate. When we do seminars with, the legends, or if it's, I'm in the room with, say, the high-end, people for karate, I tell them what I think needs to be done, and I tell them straight. I go, yeah, we all get along and all, but I go, listen, I'm just saying this as someone who's A, younger. I have a pulse on what the younger people are doing. I'm on social media. B, if we're going to take it to the next level, we kind of have to bend this rule. So you have to be willing to say no sometimes. Be a no man at times.
Yeah. Super important. And your younger audience, Karate Combat, there's a lot of cartoonish aspects about it
Yeah.
that I can't wrap my head around, but I know it works. I mean, look at their numbers. It works. So, like, I love the Karate Combat product. I think it's phenomenal. I think it's great. I don't know how it transitions for a live event, but I can tell you, watching it at home on YouTube, I really enjoy it.
They figured out a model. Like, they really did. Like, I mean, by just putting it on YouTube for free. I mean, the guy, I haven't worked with Karate Combat. I've tried to get in with them, but nothing ever happened. And plus, like,
I just started opening those doors. I had a meeting with them last week, or somebody from their staff last week. Dude, I know you're a karate guy. I think those contacts would greatly benefit you. So I'll open that door for
Thank you, man.
But let me just kind of thread the needle that I got going on. And
I do my thing, but no, I appreciate that. But no, like, they're doing great too. And then now there's the GFL that just came out of nowhere. It's like this new kid on the block, and we were talking about that. What's your expectations? That's going to be like the IFL, you think, that they have?
So the IFL was backed by real money.
Yes.
Like real money. They own Comic-Con. So like, or C2, whatever one of those one of those two, the owners did. So initially, like, I had conversations with people like, this is obviously going to tank. I hope everybody's making money, get paid. And then I was told that the money is real. Like, from somebody I really respect. I know they wouldn't want me to say their name in regards to this, but they said that money's 100% real. Like, that money's absolutely there. And when I was at the American Top Team having conversations there about it, I was told that several people are making $4,000 and $5,000 a month, like as coaches in the coaching role. So the money is 100% going out. And I was told that this investor's from India, and that, and like I said, this is all secondhand knowledge. I'm not speaking as fact, just what I was told from somebody I 1,000% respect. And they said the money's coming from India, and that the guy has got some sort of beef with the UFC, and he's willing to lose $2 billion on it. He doesn't care. It's a huge money guy from India. I don't know. I don't know anything.
No one knows. It's not like ONE FC where we have Chaudhry who's the face, but then it's like, it turns out ONE FC is like having so much problems now. Like, Sage Northcutt left, came to the PFL. It's like, it just seems like one just went, and then this new league is like, what's going on here?
Well, I mean, how much money has one lost?
So much.
Like 100 million? You know, like, they've lost a lot of money, and it's like at some point you got to kind of look at your debt to profit ratio and just go, all right, we need somebody else here. And that's not me like insulting like anybody. It's like, you can't make money and you go 100 million in debt. Like, you've been given a green light. You've never heard the word no. It's like, are you just spending the flex, or are you spending to kind of turn a profit? It's interesting. Yeah.
Damn. So GFL might have some this might be like a Pride 2.0 rivalry if it's like as true as we say.
I know this. If the GFL is what I'm being told it is, you know, it's like the Monday Night Wars with the UFC, with the WWE and WCW. The fans are going to benefit. And you know what, dude? Here, let's just say the fans don't benefit. If the fighters get paid, well, I'm cool with it.
Same.
As long as everybody gets paid, I'm cool with it.
What's your thoughts on some of these legends coming out of like retirement? Like, they signed Frank Mir, Wanderlei Silva.
I think those are coaching roles. Like, I think what they're not doing is they're not defining what they are, because they're getting social media chatter. And yeah, they're coaches. Like Thiago Alves, he's a coach. So yeah, I mean, I'm cool with that. Dude, go get money. Go get paid.
Yeah, no, like, I mean, it's like, you see, like, they signed Luke Rockhold. I hope we get Gegard Mousasi versus Luke Rockhold in that promotion. That's the one fight.
I would love to see that. Yeah, I would love to see that. I'd go. I'd see it. I 100% would watch that. Yeah. Come on, Gegard. Come on.
I mean, like, you've interviewed a lot. It's like, and we've spoken about this. So shout out to Gegard, by the way. I've actually had some DM conversations with him.
Me too. I can't get him.
I don't think he likes doing media. Like, he'll do Ariel's show for like a minute, and then he's like, okay, bye. He doesn't like doing media. I don't think, like.
Yeah. I got him through, I can't remember who gave me his phone number, but he said, throw my name. You know, if you got a shot at it, it'll work. And I did it. So I tried. I got shut down on that one.
Damn, man. No, like, even me too. Like, I mean, I've tried. I'm gonna get him eventually. It's just because like I'm now friendly with his circle, so now it's just a matter of like figuring it out. But that's another one I want to do in person. Like I said, like there's a few rules I have. Is there one interview that people bug you a lot about to get, and you're just like enough? Like I've heard.
Like I would say the only enough that I would have is Harold Howard. Like I want Harold Howard. Like I know he's one of your Canadian cats.
Yeah.
We have been begging, pleading. I hired a private investigator. The closest I got was a former student of his that knows him, like still knows where to find him, but won't tell me where he's at. And, I just said, is it because of mental issues? Is it this, that, the other thing? Because if it is, I'll stop. And he wouldn't get into it with me. So my assumption, he's homeless.
Yeah. I mean, I've looked up Harold Howard's story. Like, he had like a contracting business apparently, and then like there was like a whole jail case apparently with him. It's quite a story apparently. I'm sure you know. Yeah.
I would like for my notorious November, if I have Harold Howard, oh my God. End of podcast. That's it. We've done everything we need to do here.
No, that's
Dirty Bob Schreiber. That's another guy I'd like. Another Dutch cat. Like if you look at like the top 5 dirtiest fighters ever to live, 4 of them are Dutch, and then there's like Datsik out of Russia. So there's like it's wild like how dirty the fighters are from that part of the country.
no, it's crazy. But when it comes to that, I mean, you've also had John Peretti on, who's another legend, and not many people know about him. So if you could give like a layman's version of who John Peretti is, because I think he's a very important player, and it's one of your prized like relationships, I would say. In this
I would agree with that. So John Peretti, essentially, you had Art Davie as the owner, he's one of the owners and first MMA matchmaker ever. Mm-hmm. And after Art Davie was ousted from the UFC, they brought in John Peretti. John Peretti had an organization called Extreme Fighting, as well as a grappling organization called the Contenders. And Extreme Fighting, if you look at the cards, it's like Matt Hume versus Eric Paulson, Pat Miletich versus Matt Hume. Was it like Igor Zinoviev versus Mario Sperry? Like some of the fights on the card are like decades ahead of what mixed martial arts was at the time. And Peretti has been whitewashed from the history of the UFC, but the reality of the situation is when you look at beginning UFC and like the modern era came at UFC in a UFC fees because of Peretti and what he was doing in the matches that he was making. So like he's literally like the reason we call it the modern era, because it became mixed martial arts. But the truth of the matter is mixed martial arts, the modern era, started with Extreme Fighting, like in 96. And it was just, he just doesn't get the credit he deserves. And, he's on the spectrum, I believe. I think he would probably argue that he's not, but he for sure is.
To have a mind like that, you have to be wired different.
Dude, he's brilliant. He's like that's his brilliance tells me he's on the spectrum. It's years ahead of everybody else, like an entire decade before people can kind of wrap their head around it. So Peretti's one of my prized like relationships for sure.
I would say, there's that one. I mean, you've also had Lovato on. I didn't watch too much of that one because I kind of have like not a beef with Lovato, it's just because he beat Gegard, and it was like one of the most like and then he was like, I'm a world champion. I'm like, dude, you barely beat a Gegard that was like had a back injury, by the way. And then he was like going on saying Gegard's team was rude to me. I'm like, I know the team. I know those guys like Bert and Joey. They're amazing people. They're gonna just troll everybody. That's how they are. They even trolled me before recording with them.
So with Lovato, all right. So sometimes you got to be a pest. And Lovato, I definitely was a pest with landing that interview. And like when those guys were, you kind of like, like Overeem, I got Valentin Overeem, same thing. You just better be ready for when you can get him. So with him, we were doing the podcast and we were going in a direction that was going to have a finish line that may have brought tears to his eye because of what we were recalling and how it was going. And he knew exactly where I was going. And at about the 45-minute mark, he ended it. He's like, I don't want to do this. He's like, I got to go. And then I'm like, okay. I sent him a couple messages. You know where I'm going, and I know where I'm going. And it's incredibly special. I'd like to tie this up. So I can just kind of piece the interviews together. He wouldn't give it to me.
Wow. And he doesn't like doing media too. He's another one that doesn't really do
No.
media.
And then like I think it was like 2007. I may have the year wrong. Is what we concentrated on with him. And that was a year where like he hit every major title, gi and no gi, and was like the first American ever to do it. And like what I did was I started slow with like processes with his father and his travel and things like, so I kind of built the foundation. All right, let's talk about 2007. And then as soon as we started going into it, he was just like, it was a little bit overwhelming for him. And he ended the interview. But about a month later, he dropped like a couple posts in regards to like all of his 2007 medals framed. And like, I know the interview meant a lot to him, but he just didn't want to give it to me. Yeah.
That's unfortunate. It could have helped him a lot, man. But
it's just, it's documentation, dude. Yeah. This is what I try to do is it's like we've got a database. So we come up with like a career path where we think the interview ends. Here's the juicy parts. Where do we slide him in? Here are the hard questions they never answer. Let's kind of, flatter. And then like when those juicy questions come up, you're going to get a phenomenal answer. Like they're not going to avoid it, that's our goal.
I know it is. I mean, you never had Pat Miletich on because I had him on
did.
my show.
No,
Not
I
this
did.
one. Oh, you actually? Okay, so we both had Pat on. That was.
So he won't do anything other than
conspiracy.
he won't do anything other than conspiracy right now.
Yeah. Seems like he just put that all MMA in the past. Like, nope. It's like I don't want anything to do
with
it. I'm done. And he's like, yeah, no. When I had him on, very nice guy, but it was in my old audio show because this is like the video. This is the main show, but I had like an audio only show where I scored him on an interview, and that was pretty fun. I had John Fitch on as well. John Fitch was just bitter about the UFC.
He's angry. Yeah, he's an angry guy.
He's just perennially angry.
Yeah, he's an angry. Well, Brady's a little angry too. Yeah, it's true. Yeah, I agree with
Frank
that.
Shamrock you've had on? Or no?
I had Frank. Yeah, I've had a bunch of Lytes Den guys. So Tony Galindo is the Lytes Den interview I always point towards people. So Tony was kind of like the henchman for like the early Lytes Den days. And like what people don't understand is like Ken is from some adverse background. Like you're looking at like a polished guy now, but where he came from was much different than like the person that you're looking at. So like the Lytes Den initially was like a criminal organization. And when I had Tony Galindo on, like when right before I got two files, him and his fight file, and then like the Lytes Den shit that no one wants to talk about. Right before he got on, he's like, I go, Tony, is there anything like that's completely off limits? You ask me anything, especially the stuff that you don't think I want to ask, and blah, 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 blah. So I just took his fight, file and, put it to the side, and we just asked all crazy Lytes Den questions, and we got like 2 hours out of it. Like ecstasy deals. Yeah, we got ecstasy deals where Ken got beat out of like 30 grand cash, out of like a porn star. Everything that I heard along the way that I've taken notes from since like the early 2000s, we asked in that interview, and we got answers on almost everything.
Yeah, it's just crazy how you haven't got Tito and Chuck Liddell yet, but I'm sure they will come on eventually.
Well, I'll get them. It's just a little bit of time.
Yeah, but you've had Frank on. My favorite iconic Tito moment of the old MMA days was when he beat Guy Mesger, and he just like and he just literally like gives the two middle fingers like this, and he has to sure Guy Mesger is my bitch. It's like Tito was ahead of his time too, man. That Lytes Den rivalry with Tito was insane. And did Ken and Frank ever discuss that rivalry with you or
I had Frank. We only talked about Frank's career. We mostly Japan. With Ken, I was told 30 minutes. I think I got like 45 minutes out of him. Where I would like to redo Ken with, because it was UFC 1 month. I'd like to concentrate on his last 4 fights because there's actually a little bit of controversy behind a couple of them that not a lot of people know about and Ken's never talked about. So you know what? I think that's one of those guys. I'm going to reach out to him this week. I mean, I've already got the notes done. I'm going to reach out to like his handlers this week, see what they say.
That's amazing. So obviously you've done UFC month. Now you want to do Notorious November.
I
And you're
think
doing
that's what
great
we're
with
gonna do.
BKFC.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So I Josh Grisby, I've got a green light on him, and like I said, my intent isn't to like steamroll them or hammer these people about whatever it is. If they want to address it, cool. But we're gonna talk about their career.
Yeah. That's how you got to do it. That's how I do it too. Like
Yeah.
even like what I do, I never try to bring people down or try to like get a soundbite. Like I mean, if you have a story, share it. Like for example, Sam Greco. If and when I get that interview, hopefully, I'm like it's just a matter of like the day and time. I want to hear about what led him to go from Kyokushin to Sato and K1. Like what was that decision like to go from like
And then
traditional martial
MMA.
arts?
Yeah, then MMA.
Yeah, he
after
did a
that.
few MMA fights too. Yeah, I want to hear about that. Like, it's the thing. So I want. There's a lot of things I have questions for, but you're doing great. So what's the plan for 2025 this year and then beyond?
I'm hoping like 60 interviews, deep dive interviews. My goal for the year is 60. Yeah, I mean, we always drop every Monday, but I'm trying to get a few more. Like November, if I can do 8 interviews in November, that would help. So yeah, just keep plugging away, dude.
That's amazing, Mike. I really want to thank you for coming on, man. It was such an honor to do this. Like, you're doing such a great people. Guys, follow the Lights Out podcast. If you love combat sports in all regards, follow this show. Don't follow the other ones. Follow his show if you really want to see the road to the UFC. It's important. He's doing the Lord's work. He's doing Allah. He's doing Moses. He's doing
Whatever.
Jesus Christ. Whatever you believe in, just follow it. Like, I'm a big proponent of it. Like, I love it. That 2K followers, get it to K for crying out loud.
Yeah.
Mike, where can people find you on social media, by the way?
So
That's just for the YouTube
Instagram,
channel.
Lytes Out Podcast. Chris Lytle is a dear friend of mine. His travel schedule has limited him recording anything. No, it's just his name, Lytes Lytes Out Podcast, MMA History Podcast. Instagram is probably the easiest way to get a hold of us, and YouTube. Our YouTube channel is actually fantastic comments. The comment section there is great. So Drew, thanks, buddy. Appreciate it. And I'm going to share
Thank
this on
you,
my
man.
channel too, if it's okay with you.
Yeah, of course. I mean, like the interview or the.
Whatever you send me, I'll share.
Okay, perfect. All right, guys,
All right.
make sure to like, share, subscribe button, and follow this man. If you like my channel, follow the Drewsperience on all platforms. Out.
Take care, buddy.